Welcome, I'm Catherine Hadro, and this is EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. One step closer. The nomination of Judge Coney Barrett to become our nation's next Supreme Court justice clears an important hurdle. Who's to blame for the COVID deaths in her family? A familiar TV face points the finger at New York's governor, saying he failed to protect the lives of the vulnerable. And the impact of miscarriage, the importance of acknowledging and mourning the loss of an unborn child. History is being made this week on Capitol Hill as the Senate moves closer to approving Judge Coney Barrett to a seat on our nation's highest court. Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee have voted to advance Judge Barrett's Supreme Court nomination to the full Senate, despite continued resistance from Democrats.
So the idea that Judge Barrett is some sort of neutral arbiter who will only interpret the law as it is written is just not believable. She will make hugely impactful decisions that could alter the fabric of American society, starting with what will be one of her very first cases, a lawsuit pushed by President Trump and Republicans to rip away health care from millions of Americans. God save us.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell confirms the full Senate vote on Barrett's nomination on Monday, October 26th, capping one of the shortest periods from nomination to confirmation for Supreme Court justice in U.S. history. Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee and joins us now from Capitol Hill. Senator, welcome back. Why do you believe Judge Coney Barrett should be confirmed to the Supreme Court?
Judge Coney Barrett has proven to be a fair jurist. She is extremely knowledgeable. I have sat through all of our judiciary hearing meetings, have heard her wonderful qualifications, and the fact that according to, so many of us, and what is important to me and to all Iowans and Americans is that she will uphold our Constitution. So I do believe that she has a place on our Supreme Court, and I'm very excited about the opportunity to put her on the Supreme Court.
I want to discuss a specific moment during your questioning of Judge Coney Barrett last week when you read from the Susan B. Anthony List's coalition letter. Let's take a listen.
Quite apart from whatever policy views she may have on the matter, Judge Barrett reasons to a proper result in each case before her. As a federal appellate judge appropriately following controlling precedent, in February 2019, she joined a panel decision upholding a law creating a buffer zone around abortion facilities.
Senator, I think some viewers may be surprised to hear that Judge Barrett ruled in favor of an abortion facility last year. Why did you point this out, and what does this reveal to you?
Well, again, it was important to point this out, and while I am proudly pro-life, and I know that Judge Barrett in her personal life is also a pro-life woman, but that's what the left has been attacking her on is her faith, her religion, the fact that she is pro-life. So it was important for me to point out that those are false attacks because the judge is ruling on the law and the precedent. And so I just wanted to prove to them that when she steps into that courtroom with that black robe on, then she becomes a very fair jurist looking at jurisprudence with jurisprudence at the law and upholding our Constitution. And she can set those personal values aside and just simply rule upon the law. It was extremely important to point that out because, again, it's false attacks coming from the left on the basis of her faith.
What did you make of your Democratic colleagues' line of questioning regarding the pro-life letters Judge Barrett had previously signed?
Well, I thought, again, it's outrageous just because she had signed letters expressing her faith and the fact that she is pro-life. That is in a personal capacity. Just because she is a judge doesn't mean she gives up a personal life. The important thing, again, is to point out the cases that she has ruled on, that she has been an impartial jurist, and that she is following the law. She can put aside those personal feelings. So I thought it was very inappropriate for them to bring those letters up because she still is an individual and has individual rights. And for her to sign those letters was completely acceptable to me.
Joe Biden has said he is not a fan of court packing, but will make his view on it known before Election Day. Meanwhile, a number of your Republican Senate colleagues introduced this week a proposal to protect the number of justices on the highest court. Senator Ernst, what's your response to packing the court?
Well, I am a co-sponsor on that resolution. I'm proud to be co-sponsoring with Senator Marco Rubio, Senator Ben Sasse, and others to uphold the number of justices at 9. This has been part of our tradition and history for over 150 years. So when the Democrats are out there talking about packing the court, which means expanding the number of seats on the Supreme Court, I think it is outrageous. I think it is outrageous that Vice President Biden has stated that the American people don't deserve to know where he stands on packing the court. I think we should be spreading that far and wide, that he doesn't think the American public deserve to know what he is thinking about a very, very important part of our third branch of government. What the Democrats are looking for is a super legislature. We need to put our feet down and say, absolutely not on our watch.
Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Joining us now for analysis via Skype is Chuck Donovan, president of the Charlotte Lozier Institute. Chuck, first, the Senate is set to vote on Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett, and she is likely to be confirmed. Can you put this moment into perspective for us?
Well, I think there are lots of ways to put it. For one, she's an original and an originalist. That is, she's a judge who will decide cases based on the meaning of the Constitution, proper interpretation of statutes. She's an original in that she was #1 in her class at Notre Dame, served on the Supreme Court, has been held in high esteem by her students, elected Professor of the Year 3 times, and she's a remarkable mother too. She lives what she believes in.
Chuck, thousands of protesters gathered in D.C. just this past weekend for the Women's March to protest Amy Coney Barrett, many marching in support of abortion. Chuck, we're seeing a lot of rhetoric from abortion advocates right now that a Justice Barrett would mean back alley abortions and harm to women. But your group just this week released the findings of a robust study on pregnancy centers, which really debunks these claims. What were the main findings of your new study, Chuck?
Well, the new study covered 2,700 pregnancy centers across the United States. There are many overseas. We noted that they had seen through our survey of the centers something approaching 2 million clients. They served half of them for abstinence education, the other half for pregnancy tests, for ultrasound services, almost 500,000 free ultrasounds given out. But the most striking thing is how the centers are expanding their medical presence. We're now in the 35th year since ultrasound was introduced at pregnancy centers, and they're adding services like dealing with human trafficking and opioid addiction as the general situation in our society really becomes more complex every day.
Chuck, if Roe versus Wade is overturned, what role would pregnancy centers provide?
Well, they're going to be on the front lines. I think we have to be frank with ourselves, Catherine, that even with all the pregnancy services out there, we have something in the neighborhood of 800,000 abortions every year. And almost half of them are taken by chemical abortion. What that means is medical support for these women is going to be remote. So they need to be able to count on pregnancy centers up close and personal. They need to take more services out through things like mobile units. But we have to be a lot more robust than we are, even though we found this was a record amount of pregnancy care.
Absolutely. Speaking of Roe versus Wade and the Supreme Court, can I get your reaction to some Democratic politicians advocating for court packing if Joe Biden is elected president?
Yeah, well, it's very worrisome. It goes all the way back to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who originally proposed it. He was rejected by his fellow Democrats who held him in the highest esteem. And they saw what we see. Court packing will be a two-way street. You'll end up with dozens of people on the Supreme Court each time an administration changes. There won't be continuity in the law. There'll be chaos. And for that reason, we think it's a very, very bad idea.
Chuck, lastly, there has been a lot of fear-mongering over Roe v. Wade, and if it is overturned, for your last word, is there anything you want to clarify for our viewers about any misunderstandings that could be out there?
Well, absolutely. You know, we have to get the justice part of this right, which is the right to life of every human being is the same regardless of age, condition, medical need, and so forth. Now we have to get the mercy part even better. Our report shows we've got a lot going, but we have to do more. And post-Roe doesn't have to be like pre-Roe.
Chuck Donovan, president of the Charlotte Lozier Institute, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
The full Senate prepares to vote on whether Judge Amy Coney Barrett will be a justice on the Supreme Court. President Trump appointed Barrett, a Catholic mother of 7 and former Notre Dame law professor, to replace the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court. The chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Senator Lindsey Graham, said this is a historic moment as it's the first pro-life woman who embraces her faith to be nominated to the Supreme Court. That brings us to this week's call to action. Go to prolifeweekly.com and tell your senators to confirm Amy Coney Barrett. Having Barrett, a Catholic and constitutionalist, on the Supreme Court bench could have a major impact on the pro-life cause for decades to come. At our website, we've drafted letters that you can directly send to your senators. You can, of course, change the wording to whatever you would like. Let's encourage our senators to swiftly confirm Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. Write to your senators by going to prolifeweekly.com. The coronavirus pandemic has disproportionately affected nursing home residents. The New York Times database estimates while only 7% of the country's COVID cases have been in long-term facilities, the deaths in those facilities make up 40% of U.S. coronavirus fatalities.
I am here to support all of these wonderful people that are now part of my family because we need answers as to what happened, why it happened, and so that it never happens again.
That was Fox News meteorologist Janice Dean speaking at a New York City protest this past weekend, calling on New York Governor Andrew Cuomo to apologize for what protesters say was his role in the New York COVID nursing home deaths. Protesters point to the governor's March 25th mandate from his Department of Health, which required nursing homes to import COVID-19 positive patients. The order was later revoked. Joining us now via Skype is Janice Dean. You might recognize her as the senior meteorologist over at a different network, Fox News Channel, but she has been one of the leading voices sounding the alarm over Governor Cuomo's directive. Janice, welcome. First, can you tell our viewers how your family was directly impacted by this nursing home directive?
My husband lost both of his parents, both his mother and father, at separate elder care facilities. We lost his dad at a nursing home. The plan was to actually have them both together at the assisted living residence where my mother-in-law was staying. My father-in-law needed rehab. He had dementia and he had a lot of health issues. So the plan was to have him in rehab for short term, for a short period of time. And then he would join Dee in the assisted living facility. And then COVID-19 came in play. And, you know, my heart goes out to the folks that have to make those decisions of what to do with their elderly parents, because we wrestled with this for really years. It wasn't until very recently that we decided they needed to have help 24 hours a day, and that his dad needed extra care. So the fact, you know, that we had to wrestle with those decisions for so many months and then to have COVID come in and take both of their lives is just devastating.
Janice, do we have a sense of how many of our elderly died because of this New York mandate? How great was the impact?
Well, Governor Cuomo is saying that the number is a little over 6,300 deaths in the nursing homes. But part of the reason why I am so vocal is I believe those numbers are double. And the reason I believe that is because New York State is the only state that does not count the number of seniors that died in the hospitals but got COVID in their elder care facilities. An example of that is my mother-in-law. She contracted COVID-19 in her assisted living residence, but died in the hospital, and her number does not count. And although some people, there are lawsuits right now trying to get information from the health department on what those numbers are, but the governor and his health commissioner, Howard Zucker, have yet to release those figures.
You have been speaking and writing and testifying on this subject. What action do you want to see be taken?
I want a full bipartisan investigation into this matter with subpoena power. It's the only way I think we're going to get answers. The governor continues to go on television, radio programs, blame everybody else except the person that signed the directive that was in place for 46 days, bringing COVID-positive patients into nursing homes. He was beginning that the virus would spread like fire through dry grass. And that's exactly what happened. If we don't have a bipartisan investigation, I'm afraid that we aren't going to get those answers because if we have subpoena power, then we can put the governor on notice, as well as his health commissioner and people in the nursing homes. I know that people that own nursing homes, people that run nursing homes, and people that work in nursing homes would love to speak, but they can't because they're afraid of losing their job and they're afraid to go against this governor. But if there is an independent investigation, I think those answers can finally be revealed.
On the show, Janice, we discuss protecting the lives of the vulnerable from womb to tomb. Can you speak about how our elderly are vulnerable amid this pandemic and what's the best way to protect them?
Well, that's a larger question and something that I think needs to be addressed. One of the reasons why I want answers is so this never happens again. Clearly, there was a problem with the elderly from the very beginning. When we found out about COVID, it happened in the Northwest with the first case in a nursing home, or several cases in a nursing home when this first began. So we have to learn from the mistakes that were made. And certainly here in New York, the virus did spread like wildfire, and COVID positive patients should have never been put into nursing homes. We had other options. We had the Javits Center, we had the Comfort Ship, we had other makeshift hospitals, but for some reason, the governor decided to put those COVID patients into nursing homes. He knew in the very beginning that this would be a devastating situation, and they were like sitting ducks.
Janice, what's been Governor Cuomo's response to this, and have you been in communication with his office?
No one's tried to reach out. I just see the governor promoting his book. He released a book last week on his leadership. It feels like a victory lap in the middle of a pandemic. What governor should have the time to write a book in the middle of a pandemic, especially this one, where he has lost more residents in New York State than any other state, than any other country in some cases as well. I haven't received word from him. You know, when I do interviews, they will get a response from his office, but I have yet to hear from him. And the one thing that I wish we had from the very beginning from the governor was an apology to say, I'm really sorry for your loss. And that's the first thing that I tell families when I meet them at rallies and when I meet them in person, when I try to go to Albany and speak for those who have no voice, who no longer have a voice, is I tell them, I'm sorry for your loss. And we have yet to hear that from the governor.
And I should note, we have reached out to Governor Cuomo's office for comment, and as of recording time, have not yet received a response. Janice Dean, be assured of our prayers for your family, and we are sorry for your loss. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for saying that, and thank you for having me.
Coming up, a high-profile rock star goes on the record with her abortion story. My take on why her story is so very tragic. And mourning the loss of a child through miscarriage. Why it's so important to acknowledge and openly grieve We talked to a group that helps couples with their loss. A society will be judged on the basis of how it treats its weakest members, and among the most vulnerable are surely the unborn and the dying. We remember St. John Paul II's powerful life-affirming words as we celebrate his feast day on October 22nd. St. John Paul II, pray for us. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Hadro. A famous singer says she would not have found success if she did not have an abortion. That is this week's Speak Out segment. Singer Stevie Nicks of Fleetwood Mac fame says if she had not gotten an abortion, there would have been no band. Nicks says she got an abortion in 1979 when Fleetwood Mac was at the height of success and she was dating Eagles singer Don Henley. In an interview with The Guardian, Nicks said, quote, "If I had not had that abortion, I'm pretty sure there would have been no Fleetwood Mac. There's just no way that I could have had a child then, working as hard as we worked constantly." The Fleetwood Mac singer went on to say she was also doing a lot of drugs at the time, and she felt her world's mission was to create music and help heal people's hearts. Fleetwood Mac has been in the spotlight lately as one of their biggest hits, Dreams, is back in the top 10 list thanks to a viral social media trend. This was a heartbreaking interview to read because Stevie Nicks witnessed includes a common lie in our world, the lie that you cannot find success as a mother. But the truth is, children do not take away from dreams. They add to dreams. It is abortion that subtracts. As we've seen in recent weeks, so many women are embracing Judge Coney Barrett's witness. Here's a woman who said yes to life. She has 7 children, and she is about to sit on the highest court possible. Barrett's example stamps out the lie that it's sometimes necessary to kill your own child in order to get ahead in life. Let us pray for healing for all women who have undergone abortions and work to show our world that success can take many forms, but it will never require abortion. October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, a chance to acknowledge the painful cross many parents suffer. And while miscarriage is often shrouded in silence, one group is trying to change that and have a conversation on healing, as we share in this week's Pro-Life Focus. Michaelene Fredenburg is president of Life Perspectives and founder of MiscarriageHurts.com, a digital healing platform for women and men touched by miscarriage. While people often adopt customs or traditions to grieve a loved one's death, Fredenburg notes we often neglect those steps when it comes to reproductive loss.
We don't send sympathy cards. We probably haven't been to a memorial service for a child who was lost through miscarriage. And yet it's those very things that help the parents to know that that child won't be forgotten, that we remember as a community. And when that is not done, they tend to hold on to their pain or their grief or even their guilt if they feel that it was their fault. And they hold on to that as the connection to their child rather than having a more healthy connection that allows them to move forward in the grieving process.
That is where MiscarriageHurts.com steps in with its unique Healing Pathways tool.
The healing pathways are actually activities that give people the ability to do that. They can anonymously share their story. There's an activity where there's 100 emotions and they can choose the emotions that they're feeling. They see them come up and they see the emotions of others as well. So letting them, it's validating their feelings, but they also know that they're not alone.
Fredenburg emphasizes people grieve differently, and that is okay.
There really aren't shoulds. There's not a set timeline, there's not a specific way. And then I think for couples in particular, for them to recognize that it is likely that they're going to grieve very differently, but they're both still grieving.
The team at MiscarriageHurts.com suggests practical ways to help loved ones grieve this loss. Ask what they need, suggest they speak with a priest, memorialize the baby. But the important thing, she says, is to not be afraid to have the conversation in the first place.
I think we fear saying the wrong thing. Also, I think there's this fear of if I bring it up, it will make it worse. I'll remind you, right? You're going to cry. Maybe he's going to become angry or frustrated. And the thing is, really, we know that one of the most important things is to acknowledge the loss. I mean, to say, I'm so sorry for your loss, and to listen, to be able to listen to whatever they want to talk about, or perhaps we're going to sit in silence, but we're going to be present together so that they have space to do that.
And while there will always be a sadness attached to a miscarried child, for the intense, paralyzing pain, healing is possible. Fredenburg tells me there are about 1 million miscarriages that happen every year in the United States alone. If you or someone you know has been touched by this tragedy, be sure to go to miscarriagehurts.com. That does it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Until next time, we'd love to hear from you. Find us on social media at EWTN Pro-Life on all social media platforms. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we're there. You can also send us a message by emailing prolifeweekly@EWTN.com. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.